Hello, and welcome to the Big Money Stylist Podcast. We are on episode number 37. Can't wait for the day that we're dirty 100 or whatever it is. I don't know what 100 has, but can't wait for that day. So every single week we go through one topic. It's either power, production, profit, or protection. This week is all about power, and there's one specific story, Coach Val, that you know I want to come to in regards to power that you just told us.
But I don't know how this is going to power, but
inside of power,
just Sawyer saying it.
Yes, inside of power today is all about standing up for yourself, and not in like a bitchy like fuck you way, but sometimes it is going to have to be that way, guys. And we will be going into it like with business and personal and consequences of doing it and not doing it. But let's talk about this. Tell us just a little bit about your daughter, because she is just the sweetest human in the world.
Yeah, my daughter Sawyer, she's 8, and she's just like a rule follower. She's like the best student. She's a really good girl. She has some emotions for sure, but she's just like, I don't know, she never goes against the grain. She's just like a really good like rule follower structure. We don't have like a lot of problems with her and her behavior.
She's crazy smart, loves
super
to read,
smart,
like
loves school. She loves structure and following rules, and she's just like, she doesn't have a mean bone in her body. She's just really, really kind all the time. She did not get that from me.
And she has the most beautiful freckles and like big front teeth and blonde hair. Like she's, oh my gosh, I think one of the prettiest kids I've ever seen. So she started school yesterday, or she started school 2 days ago, I guess now. Yesterday?
No, it was yesterday.
So she started school yesterday, and there was a bit of an instance. What happened?
Oh, this was at her summer school.
Oh,
but yeah,
okay,
so
perfect.
anyways, my daughter, she just got her braces on, and she was super excited, and we were like letting her know, you know, you might get like teased a little, and if anyone has something not nice to say, this is what I was telling her. I was like, you just tell them, if you don't have something nice to say, zip it. And, like, that's how I left it. Because, you know, kids are mean, and I just wanted to prepare her. Like, I know you're stoked on braces, but, like, someone might say something. So, sure enough, like, she got her braces on. She loved it. She got one of those, like, little expander things on the top. So she talks a little different until she got used to it. So one of the girls at her summer school was making fun of the way that she, like, talked, and it really hurt her feelings. She came home. Ryan picked her up, my husband, and she was crying. And, you know, protective dads and their little girls. And so she was, like, saying, they made fun of me, you know, and he was like, the little girl's name is Brooklyn. He was like, fuck Brooklyn. She's probably in her room picking her nose. Like, you know, the guys are just like straight to the point. So Sawyer went back the next day, and the girl said something again, and she's like, you know what? My dad said, fuck Brooklyn. You're probably in your room picking your nose. So Sawyer got written up, but I wasn't even slightly mad because Lennox has been written up like 100 times, and he hasn't even started kindergarten yet. Sawyer's never been in trouble ever, like at school. She's just such a rule follower, and like that happened, and she was like, she just looked like so timid and scared, and me and Ryan are like high-fiving, like, good for you. Like, you stuck up for yourself, and we're all getting T-shirts made saying, fuck Brooklyn.
Okay.
So Sawyer found her power.
So as an 8-year-old in that moment, why do you think it's so important that she was able to go from like, and I don't even want to say that she's timid, she's just a sweet kid, man. Like she feels deeply, loves deeply. Like even every time she sees me, she's like, Ani, and runs and gives me a hug. I'm like, oh, this is the purest hug I've ever had in my life. But why do you think it's so important for her at 8 years old to be able to be like, you know what? Fuck you, nose picker. How's that make you feel?
Again, tears of proud mom over here. No, it's just cool because like I have that side of me too where like I'm just like more quiet and just like don't like always stand up for myself in certain situations, and just to see her do that was like really cool. Like not everyone has to like you, and you don't have to agree with what everyone says, but like stand up for yourself. You don't always have to say fuck you Brooklyn, but just in the fact that like no, you're not saying this. You did that once and you made me cry, but the next day she wasn't crying about it, that she was like pushing back. That's what I like to see.
I feel like her dad gave her permission.
Yeah, he did.
I mean,
Ryan's opening a daddy daycare if anyone wants to send their kids there.
They're going to learn some really cool life lesson, guys. Don't worry. So why do you think, because we see this inside of the network all the time, that people come in and either inside of their business or with their employees or with their clients, like, let's just stick to business right now. They really have a hard time standing up and being like, not cool. Like, I'm not good with this. And I recently saw it in one of my boot camps. One of my girls was like, hey, I have a business partner. She's like, and I'm using that term very lightly because she came in as a partner and it was great. And then we're like, hey, we're renovating the salon. We're doing more. We're expanding. It's going to be half and half. And the girl was like, yes, let's do it. I'm so stoked. It's going to be amazing. And then when she's like, okay, when our student was like, here's the bill, your half, she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have any money, so I can't like do this.
Oh.
Yeah. And so then our client's husband was like, hey, not a big deal. I'll cover covered the other half. So now our client not only covered her half, now her husband covered the other half, and I'm like, where the fuck is this business partner?
That seems weird.
And
Like, you don't build out a whole salon and hand somebody a bill and be like, here, and then be like, oh, I didn't know. I was just kind of kidding.
I was going to pay him Monopoly money.
That's super weird. Like, that should happen, really?
No, I'm being dead serious. This is like a real conversation. So then, of course, like through part of her boot camp, because inside of BMS and Mastermind, we have a very special, it's like a business-only boot camp where it's 2 days long. There's pre-training ahead of it, but to really like get down to the nitty-gritty, not just numbers of your business, because yes, that's very important, but also systematizing and growth and what salons like should look like and systems in play, and not just being like, hey, you're hired. I have no idea where you're going, but you're hired. Like, congrats. Like really having like creating like growth outlines for every single person that comes in. So whether it be assistants or stylists or partners, like literally anybody that comes in, there's a clear like path on where they're going, along with systems down to like how many times does the phone ring before you answer it. Like very clear like system so the owner can leave and know like shit's not going to go sideways. Because you have any questions, here's basically a fucking Bible of what you need to do while we're gone. It's super cool. So this artist was kind of like, shit, now what do? I paid half, my husband paid half, which means my partner's my husband, not this chick anymore. And although they had a conversation like, hey, like you kind of need to pay us back, it was never like, you know what? Here's what we're fucking doing. Oh, I guess I shouldn't hit this thing. But I'm like, you know what? Like, here's what we're doing. Here's where we're going. Here's the plan on you paying us back, because this is fucking bullshit. Like, you cannot just, bye, Danielle.
Sorry. I really wanted to hear the story. And
I'll tell you later. It's a good one.
Can I get my chair out?
Hold on.
Take your headphones off.
Go watch it, bigmoneystylistnow.com. You can see Danielle struggling. Move chair.
I think I just flashed somebody. Sorry.
Oh, God.
Okay, well,
I'll try to lean
forward.
forward.
Listen to hear the rest of the story.
It's a really good one, I promise. You'll like it.
Okay, bye, guys.
But yeah, so then she was like, so she had conversations with the partner, but it was never really like okay, you know what, enough is enough. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what needs to happen. It was kind of like, you know, this was not cool. Like, you should probably pay us back. But how is this? It was just not like a real conversation was had.
Right.
And I feel like that's a lot of problems that our artists have inside of like even Mastermind or even anybody. Like, just fuck the business, like the hair portion of it for a minute. Business people, like
Right.
anyone who owns a business, runs a business, has anything to do like that, that's a really big problem.
I think it's because people are people pleasers. Like at the core, you're a people pleaser and you want the approval. And so like that confrontation and standing in your power, like, hey, we had an agreement and this is what a partnership looks like. We pay this half and you pay this half. You didn't deliver on that. So you're not my partner anymore. Like you didn't hold up your end of the deal. So here's what it looks like. That's a much harder conversation. It's much easier to like either push it off on someone else, like, well, my husband said that I have to tell you, or like this person, like the direct conversations are hard to have. So I think that's why so many businesses get into trouble, is that people don't stand in their power or value themselves or their worth enough to have that direct conversation that would lead to like different results.
Yes, and so that's a perfect example with partnership and then employees, because there have been times, I mean, I've cross-checked Mo a couple times, you've cross-checked Jill, like these are just things that happen inside of the salon all the time. Like Danielle's had talks with everybody, like Garrett does it with the Warriors, like the Warriors sometimes do it to Garrett, like it's just things that happen, of having just a conversation to be like, hey, nope. So here's, and not in like a bitchy way, like you're a fucking piece of shit, look at what you did, but just to really sit down and be like, okay, Michaela says she likes to call them conversations, not confrontations. She's like, let's just have a conversation about this, which I think is really great. It kind of reframes it a bit to not be so, have that almost like aggressive stigma that comes with having to have a collision or a confrontation. You're just like, hey, let's have a talk. As it turns out, this does not really work for me. This is not great. I don't love how this went. So here's what we're going to do going forward.
But I think realistically, it is a conversation. And at some point, we've turned it into this thing, like if you have a direct conversation, that it is confrontation. And everyone is always like, oh, I don't like confrontation. Well, no one, I mean, there's a few people, but no one at their core really enjoys fighting and arguing and getting into it with people. If Garrett, you're listening, you're one of those people that really likes it.
For me, it depends. Who am I yelling at and what's happening?
But most people don't enjoy that.
Yes.
So, but people hide behind that, and that's when it's not working for you in your business. And you're hiding and saying like, "Oh, I don't like confrontation." It's not a confrontation. It's a conversation. So I like that it's a conversation, because that's what it is. There's facts, things that need to be addressed and said, but it doesn't have to be in a yelling, screaming match. It doesn't have to be in a degrading manner. It just is like, "Hey, here's what I see. Here's what I'm feeling. Here are some facts. Like, here's where I'm at," and then the conversation flows from there.
Well, and even with myself, I don't mind the word confrontation or collisions, because to me, I think this is really interesting and not a lot of people know, even though, yes, I'm a very loud person, I'm very animated, like Lord knows I have the mouth of a sailor, so apologies if it offends you, but I can't believe at this point you're still listening.
Comment below if our language offends you.
Don't worry, someone already left a review that they're like, the language turned me off. I'm like, yeah, Val, that was obviously directed at you. Way to be an asshole.
I'm the worst. Sorry, guys. I'll clean up my act.
We all know I'm the perfect one, so don't worry. It's obviously not my language. It's offending
Although
anybody.
I did start off the show with "fuck you, Brooklyn."
Did they just start off the show with saying "fuck you" to an 8-year-old? No, she's 9, and that's why she got that reaction. No idea how old she is. Doesn't matter. But Brooklyn, you're still an asshole. So on top of that, but even like myself, that I know I'm a very loud person. I'm very animated. Even now, like if you're not watching, like go watch. Like I'm always moving my arms, and like I'm just an animated human. When I'm actually going through and when I know it's like an argument or like a confrontation, I calm down. I either curse 0 or a lot less. And it's a much more calm conversation, because I know when those types of feelings or like energy is involved, when you know it's going to be like a course correction or a collision. Not that you have to be careful, but I don't want to escalate it to something that it's not going to be like, it's not going to serve anybody now.
Right.
So I would rather be like, okay, I hear you. Yes, here's where I'm at. Here's what I saw. Here's how I feel about it. Now let's go somewhere from here.
Definitely.
And I feel like being able to have that and not be like, oh God, if I go to Val and tell her the other day when she looked at me and was like, whatever she said, when she was like, fuck you, Ani, whatever, that I was offended. How is she going to react? Oh my God, what if she doesn't like me? What if then she's not my friend? Well, then what if she doesn't want to like work with me? Like what's going to happen? Like you can't like get in your head so much.
No.
It's just a conversation that has to be had, because here's what happens. Here's what's going to happen. If you are not able to actually have a direct conversation with your partner inside of the business, with any of your employees or staff, nothing is ever going to get solved. And those feelings will continue to bubble up, and they will escalate and fester and get 100 times worse.
It's so true.
And now something that you were like, Val looked at me weird. That was annoying. And then the next day, she doesn't even look at you. Now, like, she looked at me weird yesterday. Now she's not even looking at me.
Yeah.
Wow.
It just gets worse and worse.
Yes. So let's talk about clients then too. And this can be clients inside of a salon, or if you own, it could be financial services, or you could be an accountant, or you could own a store, like any kind of customer or client base, about like letting them go, or them like almost, because we see this inside the salon where they like question you.
Yeah. So I think like if you've heard our podcast before, and we always say like if they're not a good fit for you, stand in your power, and you know you charge what you're worth, and like get rid of them if they're not like a good fit for you. And that is half of it. When the client isn't like a good fit and you're not working, you have the power to say like, no, I don't want to do this, or no, I don't want to work these hours, or no, I don't want to take you on as a client anymore. But also in the smaller fact of like, I feel like we get it's so personal what we do, because it's art and it's subjective, you know?
Oh yeah.
And so we're so much more timid, I feel like, when we come as our professionals, and we are professionals at what we do. So like whether it's a pricing, it's like, no, I can charge this because I've continued my education, and you don't have to justify it to the client, but like that's what we mean like by standing in your power, is like, you know that you've worked your ass off. You know that you're working daily on it, on your business, on your skills. You've furthered your education, taken color classes, like you're giving it your all, so you can justify like raising your prices and feel confident about that. That is standing in your power. Same thing with like when a client comes in and they're like, oh, I want to be platinum blonde and I want the bleach to my scalp because that's what I've been doing for 8 years, you know? And then you're like, no, we're not doing that, you know? And a lot of times we're like I just had a client the other day, and she's been blonde forever, and then she's like, oh, my hair's frying off, and I'm like, well, yeah, you're blonde, like, and you're not,
yes.
You're a level 6. Like, let's take you to the blonde family. You're gonna like it, but you know, going blonde is a process, going darker is a process just as going lighter is. So I'm like, it's gonna take a couple times for your color to not fade because you're over processed, blah, blah, blah. So we're gonna get you to the blonde family. So the last time we got her to a blonde family, it was great. She came back in, she went 10 weeks between her appointments. Color is not made to last that long, you know?
Yep.
And so she came back in and she's like, I hate it. I just need to be blonde and bright again. La, la, la. And she's like going off. And like, I'm like, so I let her go and say like everything. And I'm like, okay, I hear you, but nope. We have the game plan of you going blonde, and what's happening is it's been 10 weeks, you know? So your hair color's faded. I would hate my hair if I didn't touch it for 10 weeks as well. So what we're going to do today, we're giving you fresh extension hair, and you're already going to feel a million times better. We're going to deepen you again, your root. I'm going to give you brighter pops strategically placed so that you have those bright pieces so you feel bright, but we're not adding lightener all over. I'm not taking you lighter. I'm taking you darker, but you're going to be brighter and darker. So you're going to love it, and you're going to trust me, and I'm going to get you. I hear you what you're saying. I'm going to get you where we're going, but like that whole lighter thing, it's not happening. And I was confident to be able to do that. I did her hair. It was amazing. And she's texted me like almost every day since. Like, I love my hair. The next day, my husband loves my hair. Oh my God, my friend's coming to you. She just booked an appointment with you. Because I stood in my, like, I know what I'm talking about, you know? But normally when your client comes in and they're like, oh, I just hate this. And you're just like, oh my God, you hate it? You hate my work? No, she didn't hate my work. She hated that like summer happened and her hair was faded as hell, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's standing in your power too. Like, you're the professional. And anytime that I have done that and I know what I'm talking about, because I do know what I'm talking about with color and extensions, and I give my professional opinion, I never get kickback from clients. You know, they're always like, oh yeah, okay, I trust you, do your thing. So they might come in hot for a second and like they tell you what they want,
Yep.
but as soon as you tell them, they actually like that. They value your opinion because you are the professional. They're not. So you have to validate what they're saying and like, okay, I hear you. You want to be brighter, but you don't necessarily want to be like lighter all over. You want to see, you know, so you have to be confident enough to like guide your client and stand in your power that way. Like you know what you're talking about, freaking own it. And your client will respect you, and then everyone wins in that point. Had I taken her lighter, she would have been mousy all over once again. It all would have been faded into each other, and we would have caused more damage on her hair. I know that's not what she wants. I know that that's not what I want walking out of the chair. So that wouldn't have served anyone, me doing that. So that is another aspect of like standing in your power. Know that you have the knowledge as the professional and do it. Be able to communicate that with your client.
And you even do it with me. Let's just be real. Because every time it's my appointment
Oh my
time, I'm like,
gosh.
girl, dude, look at this picture of J-Lo, which, do I have another one on my phone? Maybe, maybe not. You'll find out, Val. But
Dude, I've been seeing all the pictures of J-Lo. I don't know if she had a performance recently.
VMAs.
And everyone's like posting, and I was like, oh God, it's coming. I know it. I'm just waiting for Ani to send it to me.
Here's a fun fact. I actually had it pulled up in a message for you yesterday, and the only reason I didn't send it is because we got off topic on something that was a little more serious, and I was like, shit, I don't want her to think I don't care about what we're talking about, but I also really want to bring up this J-Lo picture. I'm like, okay, you just save it, girl. It's on your phone. You see her 1,000 times a week. Bring it up a different day, but don't get...
You didn't even have to send it to me. I already saw it. I already know. Roger that.
So don't get it twisted, Val. I already had it. I was like, oh shit, look at this picture. Because she had like some shiny thing on, and she was, yes,
Yeah.
good. Glad we're on the same page. But here's what's funny. Val, even though I am a professional, we're both lead trainers for the company. Like, I've been doing this for oh my God, good God, almost 10 years now. You've been doing it for like 25, right?
Yeah. It hurts. No, seriously, in October, it'll be 15 years.
So
I want to cry.
yeah, so you've been doing it for longer than me, and realistically, like, I'm the first to admit you're just more talented than me. Like this,
whatever.
you as an okay, cool. So you're modest. That's awesome. Good for you. But as an art, like you as an artist, like that is your most natural state. Like that's just a you. And I've said before, I'm like, shit, I cannot think of someone more talented in color than you. And that to me is just like, you can be modest and like, oh no, I'm not that great, but whatever. Like, fuck you, you're dumb. So fuck you, fuck
sweet.
you, Brooklyn. But it's true. I'm like, at the end of the day, I can't think of one person who's more talented at color than you. And not because they haven't worked at it or you haven't worked, but there's also something ingrained in you that's like so natural. It's just you. Something that can't be taught. It can't be trained. It just is simply you. And although like you don't have to say it out loud or like tell other people, deep down I think you like know that part of you is there, and you, like you said, you know you're fucking good at this. You know you see it, you know where you're going, and that does give you power when clients come in. Even assholes like me, where I'm like, look at J-Lo every single time, and she's like, you do the same thing. She goes, I hear you, but no. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, do you treat clients like this? She's like, yeah, but you're worse because you're you. And I don't really kick back. And then she's like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. I showed you a picture. She's like, well, what do you want? I'm like, I don't care. Just do whatever. I don't care. Make it look good. You basically know what I want. And she's like, all right, cool. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm like, still don't care. I go into full client mode when I sit in your chair. I'm like, I don't want to hear anything. I don't care. I don't care what's happening. Just do my hair, make it look pretty, and I'm good to go. You know? But
yeah.
That's also partially because every time I come to you, I'm like, hey, Val, look at this. You're like, yeah, we're simply not doing that. Had you done at this point what I wanted to, for sure, my hair just would have fried off.
Yeah.
It just, I'm that asshole client. I am that asshole, and I'm like aware of that.
And I know, because I didn't know you like way back when, but I know your hair has been like so many different colors, and you've had platinum blonde like underneath, gone brown, then platinum to get the pink, to get the purple. So like I know, and then that's when I really know. I'm like, this girl fucking like tells people what to do with her hair. And no one's ever told her, hell no, I'm not doing that. They just do what Ani tells them. So I think I'm the first person who's told you, nope.
I will not even remotely say you're wrong. But I mean, can we just even admit at this point that I mean, not that power that I have, but that just kind of bleeds into everywhere.
Yeah.
That's why relationships, when a dude is going to stand up to me and be like, no, that's not happening. I'm like, oh, that was very attractive. Oh, tell me no again. But, and it's not like, once again, this is not known like a mean way, like, no, stupid bitch, we're not doing that. But it's just like, hey, I hear you, I get it, but that's definitely not happening. And so maybe that's why, like, I just love you so much. And I'm like, it's someone who kicks back. Like, I know, not that I would never even try to, like, push you around or, like, nudge you any which way, because I have way too much respect for you for that. But I know at the same time, if I did, you'd be like, fuck you. Like, no, we're not doing that. Same in relationships. Oh, I know I'm an alpha personality. I think I'm masculine and feminine all at the same time. I think it just depends on where you catch me and who you are.
Yeah.
If you're going to masculine me out, great. I submit happily. Like, I have no problem. But if you don't show up, then for sure I'll just, like, dude you out. And that's when I'm like, this is not going to work. Like, I'm a man here. Like,
yeah.
Am I supposed to take you on a date now? Because what's happening in this? So, but even inside of power, like, let's talk about relationships.
Okay.
Like, you and Ryan,
Yeah.
I think this is still one of my favorite stories, that he's always out-earned you.
Uh-huh.
But that's kind of changed, and it's been a back and forth that you guys had it super fun. And so I feel like you both have so much power in the relationship that one isn't better or more than the other. Like, you guys have just found this balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so talk about just like having,
I'm
you're
like,
like, yes. So I'm like,
Roger that.
I'm like, wow, thank you for really picking up on that conversation. Holy shit, Val. But so talk about that, about being in a relationship where it is like, it's power back and forth, and you guys have had hard conversations, and you've had like great conversations, and he's trusted you, you've trusted him. Like, there's just been honesty, like, even with you wanting to like move down to Laguna and be like, hey, I know this is crazy middle of the school year, but guess what? Something in me tells me we got to do this. We're going to fucking do it.
Yeah. So anytime like you have something, like whether it's your parenting, with your clients, with your business, and you know that something is right, whether it's your intuition or you have facts or anything, that's when you have to like stand in your power and kind of like fight for what it is that you want. And that's what Ryan and I do. You got to pick your battles with like everything. So I'll fight with Ryan on certain things, like, no, we're moving to the beach. No, we're doing this. Like, no, we're doing that. Anything that I like feel strongly about, I'll fight with him, you know, and like stand up for it, because there's something inside me that knows. But I don't do that with like everything. A lot of times, like I will let him, like, I'm like, oh, I don't really have an opinion either way. So if I don't, then I'm not going to fight and like just because it's what I wanted. And then he could say something the opposite, and I'm like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense too. I'm not going to be like, well, but this way was my idea, so I'm going to stand firmly in it, because that doesn't help anything. So I feel like that's why we have such a good balance, is because if I feel strongly about it, I will go to like war for it, and I'll like fight with him to get my way, knowing that it's going to like benefit like the entire family. I don't feel like I'm a selfish person. Like anything that I want is to like better the family. And we both have visions in different ways, but we're definitely not like the opposites attract story. We're very, very similar and have strengths in different areas, but we're like at the core very similar people. So we fight for what we know and what we feel is best to like help our growth.
And Ryan, at the end of the day, is not going to take your shit.
No, he's not.
You're like, and I like it.
He lets me be like my feisty self. With him, I'm like extremely feisty. Like, I'm super chill, but like there's certain things. Like he was saying last night, he was like, he's like, anyone who knows you knows like you can say something and you'll listen to someone else, but no one can sway your opinion on anything. Like once you've like made up your mind, like you'll hear everyone out and like smile. And they'll never know that you 100% disagree with them. But like once your mind is made up, like, and we were talking about Michaela, and he was like, I knew like day one, like when you came home, I'm like, doesn't matter what anyone else says, like she likes Michaela and that's going to be like her girl, you know, and regardless of what everyone else has said. Same thing with Jill, you know, like everyone was like, the other girl made more sense on paper, but I knew Jill was my girl, you know? And there's just nothing that can like persuade me once I've like made up my mind. And those kinds of things is where I'll like stand up in my power, whether it's like a client, I know this person's not a good client for me, or I know that this is a good idea for the salon, or I know this is a good idea for BMS, or I know this is a good move for our family. Like whatever it is, if you like know it and you gotta like fight for it. And even if that's not your like your comfortable place in what you normally do, if you know it to be right and it's going to help you in your business, your family, your relationships, anything, then you need to stand in your power and fight for that.
Some might call that stubbornness, Val. No, I'm kidding. And I'll be the first. I feel like I'm similar. Once my mind is made up, that is it. Like it is done. For it to even budge one way or the other, oh, heaven and hell need to be moving, because it's just not.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. I just sit there. I'm like, I'm kind of like you. I'm like, okay, Still wrong. I get it. Nope. I had a conversation with one of our teammates yesterday, and he's like, this is what we're going to do. And I was like, I hear you. I go, I'm not going to veto what you're saying. And he immediately started laughing, and I go, but I'm going to veto everything you're saying. And he's like, why? I'm like, because you're wrong because of this. I started rattling off 10,000 reasons, and he's like, okay, Ani, point made. We're not doing it my way. I'm like, good. I'm glad we had this talk. But even inside of that, he's a CFO. Like, he is like runs all the money for all of our companies. I easily could have been like, okay, like we'll do it if that's what you think is best. But deep down, I was like, that's bullshit. Like, that is going to flip everything upside down. That's not going to work. Morgan's going to fail. He's going to fail. He's going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. Everyone's going to get in trouble. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that. That's a terrible idea. And it wasn't even like, a conversation that was like, once again, a collision or like an argument. I was just like, hey, I hear you. Yeah, it's not going to work.
Right.
Here's why it's not going to work. Because that's stupid. No, that's a terrible fucking I did not say stupid, but I think he caught my
gist.
gist.
But once you know things, like, you know, like when stuff's like not working in the salon, I feel like I'm a good person to come to just because I'm in there all the time and I can give like legitimate feedback on why this could work or why this couldn't work. And it's important to have conversations like that. Same thing with like BMS. Like, you can see things from so many different perspectives that other people who aren't in it day in and day out can't see. So people come to you like, okay, here's an idea. But you have to be strong enough to stand in that so that BMS can keep growing. And I have to be strong enough, like at DKW, to say, this isn't working, here's what I'm seeing, and here's the problems that are going to arise because of it, you know? So I think that's like, if you're getting anything from this podcast, is like, trust yourself in the knowledge that you've gained and with your experience, and stand up for it so that the growth can keep happening. Stand in your power and don't always be in that people pleaser mode. Because it's so cliche, but you can't please everyone. So if you know something to be true, if you see the vision, if you could see, like, foresee problems happening in the future, if you could see this person isn't going to, like, work out as your employee, this system isn't going to work out, or this is, like, fight for those things.
And I think it's interesting we're even talking about this today because Warrior actually has a new intern right now. He says intern. I'm like, you're on probation, but you can stick with the word intern. It's fine. And he even asked me earlier. He was like, okay, so you've obviously been here for a while. I'm like, not really. It's been barely a year. He's like, what? I'm like, I know. It's crazy. But he's like, okay, you've been around the Warriors. He's like, I can tell you're used to being around guys, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, I was raised just with dudes. Like, so yes. And he said, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give me? I'm like, if you see something that's wrong, you say it. And he looked at me kind of like, he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, right now, like, yes, you're doing bitch work. Like, we all know it, you know it. They make a joke that you're the bitch of Warrior right now, like, but at the end of the day, you are helping, you know? I'm like, but if they're telling you, like, hey, go do X, Y, Z, and as you're doing it, you're like, it works, but I already see how this could be better, then that's what you need to do. Do it how they wanted it, do X, Y, Z. It'll create a little bit more work, but then do it your way and create a separate system that's going to work and be like, hey, I hear you. I know you wanted me to do these tasks, and I did it, but I did it this way. Look at how much better it is. This is why it's better. And you come with just facts. And you're like, this is what it is. This is why it works better and blah, blah. And he even said to me, he's like, because I told him, I said, Garrett has always told me since day one that I came here, he's like, you cannot be afraid to collide with me. And I'm like, I don't really want to like collide with Garrett. It doesn't sound like fun. But I will never forget the first time I actually had to do it. It was the day after WarriorCon in December. And a student came to me and asked for something. I said, absolutely not. Student went to him. He's like, yeah, sure. Why not? Because he didn't really think about it. He was just fucking tired. He's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, he just messed this up. I was like, shit, this is not good. This is bad. So I was like, oh dear God, I'm gonna have to call Garrett and literally tell him he's wrong. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking throw up. So I called him and I'm like, hey, he's like, hey, I'm like, we need to have a talk. He's like, okay. I'm like, I go, okay. You told me not to be afraid to collide with you. He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, here's what's up. This is what happened. This person asked me. This is why I said no. And then you said yes. And here's why this is a problem, because with you doing this, now you're allowing da-da-da-da-da-da, and that's not going to work. And I was like literally holding my breath. He's like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, okay. And so from there, me being able to step up and just be like, hey, this doesn't work. Not that you're wrong, but you're wrong in this one. But like, hey, this doesn't work. Here's why it doesn't work. Here's how we fix it. I then knew that he trusted me more to be like, oh, Ani actually had like the balls to come to me and be like, you might own the company, but what you did was not fucking okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I told him too. I'm like, if you see something that's wrong or that can be done better, don't keep doing it the hard way. Find an easier way to do it. That's how you make yourself valuable.
Right.
You don't want to be an intern. You want to be hired onto Warrior. Well, guess what? Nobody likes a yes man.
Yep.
Everyone likes someone who will come back and be like, that was fucking dumb. You and I can do it to each other happily. Morgan has no issue doing that with me. Now, given all of this is in the most respectful of ways.
Definitely.
We're not sitting here being like, Val, your opinion's a piece of shit, so good for you. Like, we have so much respect for each other, and Jill and Val and Danielle and Garrett and everybody. We can come back and be like, hey, this doesn't work. Here's why I see that it doesn't work.
Yep.
And that's like something that I really want people to take from this, like course correcting or adjusting things or just being able to sit down and be like, this just isn't working.
Well, the great thing about it is then it has a trickle effect. Like whether you're saying something to your client or a team member or an authority even, once you do that, then you get like with Garrett, you got some positive feedback and it was like, oh, okay. It validated you like, okay, I'm not crazy. I do know what I'm talking about. And then it gives you that that strength to keep going forward in that manner. Same thing with a client. Like when they come in and they say they want something and I suggest like, no, that's not a good idea. Here's why and here's what we are going to do. And then they're cool with it. Then you're like, okay, I do know what I'm talking about. And it just has a positive trickle effect in every aspect. And I think that's how you keep continuing on that path. Like, okay, I got this, and take it less like personal because it is such like an artsy profession,
Yeah, absolutely. And then literally the mic just hit me in the face.
That mic attacked you. I saw it.
Oh my God, it hit me. So then what would be like the biggest advice you would give someone who's listening to this and they're like, I know that I have these conversations I have to have, but I'm scared or I'm stressed out or I just don't know what's going to happen. Like what's the one biggest piece of advice that you would give someone?
To do it, because the issue isn't going to resolve itself. Like nothing resolves itself. Like there has to be some sort of a solution. So you have that conversation and then you go forward and you'll either have clarity one way or the other, whether it works out exactly how you wanted it. But like, let's say I did that with my client and she like fought me back. I would have the clarity then, like, this isn't a client I want to work on. She clearly doesn't trust me. She just wants her hair fried off, and that's not what I want to do. And I would have known that was our new path, and like, okay, maybe she's not the client for me. But because she was like, oh my gosh, and she valued me that much more, like, oh my gosh, she actually cares about my hair. She listened to me, but she still did what she wanted. I like her color skills even more, so it actually went down that path. Same thing with like your conversation. So nothing gets resolved by not doing anything. So give yourself a little bit of trust and faith, have those conversations, and you'll be surprised with how well it actually goes. And then your confidence and power will grow as well. And like I said earlier, it will have a positive trickle effect.
And then at the end of the day, guys, you have to realize one of the reasons that you're actually avoiding having this conversation is because you just have a story in your head that if you go to them, if you say something, everything's going to go sideways, nothing's going to work, it's going to be a fucking shit show. You're scared and you're nervous because you've built it up so much in your mind. You have built it up so far that you honestly believe there's going to be only negative consequences. So if you just open up and step forward with what you know is right, I think you will be really surprised by the outcome.
Yeah, and then you can stand with integrity with yourself. You're not there like, oh, I'm so mad because I'm not saying this. I see this problem and I'm not addressing it. I see this not working. I see this would be a better thing. Then you could say, I said my piece. I can stand with integrity with myself, and it panned out however it panned out. But at least you're able to like have that clear conscience and know like I stood up for what I believe and what is right.
Beautiful. So on that note, guys, thank you for being here again at the Big Money Stylist Podcast, episode number 37, talking all about power. If you actually want to see what we look like and see all of our shenanigans behind the scenes and the motions that we do and a microphone hitting me in the face, unfortunately, go to bigmoneystylistnow.com and we will see you guys next week.